When we talk about the Norman conquest of England in 1066, that means 1066 is the transition period. Okay, and that is why we know Old English or Anglo-Saxon period is ending and we are getting new era, that means Middle English period or medieval English literature. Hello everybody, how are you? I hope everyone is doing great. Today I will be trying to talk about medieval English or Middle English literature. I hope this video will give you some idea to make your assignments and homeworks as well and take your preparation for the midterm and final exam. Okay? We have to remember that continental Europe and other people like Anglo-Norman or English people, they were not using the same dialect. So their dialects will also be different. So besides this, we have to remember some points, that is when we have got Anglo-Norman, and in our previous era, as we have discussed in Old English and Anglo-Saxon period, we have got some different literary things like Caedmon's hymns. Okay, those were related to sermons. So in this era, that means Middle English or medieval English literature, we have got some anonymous writers or anonymous literature. I can tell you one thing while we are going through this topic, because sometimes, and at that moment, specifically medieval period or Middle English literature, literary time, people thought that it would be better to know the poem, but they did not get any interest to know the writer's name or the poet's name. But nowadays, what we are doing, we are already knowing who is the writer and who is the poet as well. And this is very good. That is why we could not get the names, and that is why they are anonymous. We must not forget some names. Roger Bacon, John Gawar, and none other than William Caxton, who has some contribution, that means who was the main person to invent the printing press, and the main person who is the father of English poetry. Okay, so he is none other than Geoffrey Chaucer. As we know that the 100 Years' War, it was all about the French people and the England. Okay, England and French were having 100 Years' War. 100 Years' War. That is why French lost its position in England, and that is why people were also thinking about speaking English. Although we know French was the language of aristocracy, like noble people or nobility, and as we know, the language Latin was also used in court. Like we have gathered some information in Old English literature. So Anglo-Saxon period, we have got that Beowulf. Okay, so Beowulf is also talking about some information that is related to heroic poems or heroic deeds, epic poems. Okay, and besides this, I'm also talking about that in medieval English or Middle English period, we have got some literature. Those were anonymous, as I have already mentioned. And besides this, we have got some epic poems. We have got some adventurous writings, like supernatural things were also here. And finally, it's none other than the devotion to God. We can mention Thomas Mallory's manuscript that was also talking about King Arthur. Okay, and King Arthur's, who was a knight, and his quest for the Holy Grail. So you can mention and you can talk about it. That will be very helpful to make your note all about medieval literature and Middle English literature. In 1476, that means we are talking about printing press. Yes, William Caxton's printing press came, and that is how we are knowing that in medieval English or Middle English period, people were very fond of expressing or very fond of printing their writings, or sometimes it was happened to imitating the previous literature like Old English or Anglo-Saxon period. And besides this, they try to copy others' language, or even sometimes they try to change through editing. We can talk about three plays, that means mystery play, miracle play, and morality plays, where census lives and sometimes charity vices and sometimes some articles or even expressions related to Bible were also involved in this play. The Book of the Duchess, yes, it was also talking about the French period. That means the influence of French people, influence of France. And we can talk about more things, those were involved in Italian literature. That means Italian influence were also involved, like Dante and Boccaccio and Troilus and Cressidi. And related to this, like Geoffrey Chaucer's writings we already mentioned. So these writings were also talking about, besides French and Italian, they were also talking about English literature. Specifically, it was also established by none other than Geoffrey Chaucer. And last but not the least, I'd like to finish my speeches because French, as you know, the language, French language was also the language of aristocracy. Okay, and Latin were used as courtly language. So we already know the imitative language in Middle English period or medieval period, and these are also related to this period. Hope you will try to sort out this topic and make some preparation for your exams. Best wishes. If you have any kind of queries, you can comment here. Okay, take care everybody, stay at home, stay safe.